In the ceaseless noise of modern existence, there exists a truth so powerful yet so rarely acknowledged that it has become invisible to most. The ancient sages knew it, the greatest achievers of history embraced it, and those who shaped the world, today, whether they realize it or not, have stumbled upon this singular reality. That in silence true power is born, not in the restless activity that defines our age, not in the endless accumulation that occupies our attention, but in those rare moments when we dare to step back from the world's incessant demands and listen to something deeper, something eternal. Consider for a moment the last time you experienced genuine silence. Not merely the absence of sound, but that rich, pregnant stillness where the mind ceases its endless chatter, and something else emerges. Something that has always been there, waiting. In that space, beneath the frantic thoughts and endless desires lies the birthplace of everything meaningful we will ever create. The most puzzling paradox of human existence is that we spend our lives running from the very thing that would set us free. We fill every moment with noise, with distraction, with movement, afraid perhaps of what we might discover if we simply stopped. And yet, those who have transformed industries, shifted paradigms, and transcended the limitations of their time have all shared one common practice. They cultivated a relationship with silence. Thomas Edison would often sit in perfect stillness, waiting for insights to emerge from the void. Albert Einstein visualized his theories during long walks where no words were needed. And Lincoln, before making decisions that would alter the course of history, would retreat into contemplative solitude, knowing that wisdom rarely shouts, it whispers. These men understood what we have forgotten, that silence is not empty, it is full, not passive, but the most active state a human being can occupy. The quality of your life at this very moment is a direct reflection of the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts is determined by your willingness to create space between them, to allow silence to work its alchemy upon the raw material of your consciousness. This is not mysticism, it is the most practical reality you will ever encounter. For your outer world is merely a projection of your inner landscape, and that landscape is shaped in silence. Look around you. Every structure, every technology, every institution began as a thought in someone's mind. Before the skyscraper, there was silence and an idea. Before the symphony, silence and inspiration. Before the business empire, silence and vision. Nothing of substance has ever been created without first passing through that sacred portal, where noise ceases and clarity begins. And yet we run from silence as if it were our enemy rather than our greatest ally. The modern mind has been conditioned to equate activity with productivity, noise with importance. We measure our worth by the fullness of our calendars and the constant ping of notifications. But this is perhaps the greatest illusion of our age, that constant motion equals forward movement. True progress has never been born of frantic activity, but of focused thought followed by deliberate action. And focused thought requires silence. Consider the difference between the turbulent surface of the ocean and its depths. On the surface, waves crash and winds howl, constant motion, constant change. But descend just a few hundred feet and you enter another world entirely, still, clear, powerful. This is the difference between a mind in constant reaction to external stimuli and a mind that has learned to dwell in the depths of silence. One is at the mercy of every passing storm. The other remains unmoved, tapping into currents of thought and insight unavailable to those who never leave the surface. The capacity to be alone with your thoughts, truly alone without the crutch of distraction, may be the single greatest predictor of your future success. For it is only in these moments that you can hear your own voice, not the echoes of others' expectations. It is only in silence that you can distinguish between the path others have prescribed for you and the path you were born to walk. This distinction makes all the difference between a life of quiet desperation and one of authentic achievement. The irony does not escape me that you are hearing these words rather than sitting in silence. But my hope is not to fill your mind with more noise, but to create a clearing, to remind you of what you already know but have perhaps forgotten, that your greatest resource is not out there in the world of things and people and endless striving, but in the sanctuary of your own mind, accessible only when you have the courage to be still. In this age of unprecedented opportunity, the greatest opportunity of all may be the chance to reclaim our relationship with silence. For while information has become abundant to the point of overwhelm, wisdom remains as rare as ever. And wisdom is the fruit of silence, not of endless consumption. The most successful among us are not those who ingest the most content, attend the most meetings, or maintain the busiest schedules, but those who have developed the capacity to step back, to reflect, to distill signal from noise. There is a stunning correlation between achievement and the practice of regular solitude that goes largely unnoticed in our hustle culture. From CEOs who rise before dawn to spend an hour in meditation, to artists who fiercely protect their creative silence, to athletes who visualize success in perfect mental stillness, those who reach the heights understand that the journey upward begins with the journey inward. And the journey inward requires silence. What would change in your life if you committed to spending even 15 minutes each day in complete silence? No phone, no music, no conversation, no reading, just you and the contents of your mind. At first, this practice may feel uncomfortable, even painful. The mind, unaccustomed to stillness, rebels. It produces countless reasons to break the silence, to reach for distraction. This resistance is natural and even necessary. It is the sound of mental muscles being stretched that have grown weak through disuse. But persist through this initial discomfort, and something remarkable begins to happen. The mental chatter that normally consumes your awareness starts to settle, like sediment in a glass of water. Beneath the surface agitation, a deeper clarity emerges. Problems that seemed unsolvable suddenly reveal their solutions. Decisions that felt impossible become obvious. And most significantly, your own authentic desires and purpose, so often drowned out by the expectations of others, begin to make themselves known. This is not self-help platitude, but psychological reality. Clarity cannot coexist with chaos. The mind requires space to function at its highest capacity. And in our age of unprecedented input, that space must be deliberately created, protected with the same fierce devotion with which we protect our material possessions. In fact, with greater devotion, for while the things of this world can be replaced, lost time and scattered focus exact a toll that can never be repaid. The cultivation of silence represents the highest form of self-investment. Unlike external acquisitions, it appreciates rather than depreciates over time. The capacity for deep thought, for sustained attention, for genuine insight. These are the true currencies of success in any field of endeavor, and all of them are forged in silence. In those moments when you choose depth over breadth, quality over quantity, presence over distraction, consider how many decisions you make each day on autopilot, responding to circumstances rather than creating them. This reactive stance, so common as to seem normal, represents perhaps the greatest squandering of human potential in history. For while animals must respond to their environment as it is, the human being possesses the unique capacity to first envision and then create environments that do not yet exist. This creative power is our birthright, yet it remains dormant until activated through conscious thought. And conscious thought requires silence. The pattern becomes clear. Silence enables thought. Thought determines action. Action creates circumstances. Circumstances shape lives. The quality of your silence, then, sits at the headwaters of everything that will flow through your life. Pollute this source with constant noise, with the opinions of others, with mindless consumption, and everything downstream is affected. Your decisions, your relationships, your work, your legacy. But protect this source. Purify it through regular practice, and something extraordinary happens. Life ceases to be something that happens to you and becomes something that expresses through you. The distinction is not semantic, but foundational. One stance leaves you forever at the mercy of external conditions. The other places you at the creative center of your existence. This shift from reaction to creation represents the dividing line between mediocrity and excellence in any domain. The reactive mind sees circumstances as fixed and responds accordingly. The creative mind sees circumstances as fluid and molds them through the power of thought followed by action. And this creative stance, this ability to originate rather than merely respond, is cultivated in silence. The great industrialist Andrew Carnegie understood this principle well. When asked about the source of his remarkable success, he pointed not to hard work or good fortune, but to his habit of spending the first hour of each day in what he called deep thought, uninterrupted silence in which he would consider his objectives and chart his course before the day's demands could fragment his attention. This practice, more than any other, he credited with enabling him to see opportunities invisible to his competitors and to make decisions unclouded by conventional wisdom. What Carnegie knew, what all great achievers know, is that the game is won or lost in these moments of silence, long before visible action begins. By the time others see you take the stage, sign the deal, launch the company, or publish the work, the true creative labor has already been completed in those precious intervals when you chose depth over distraction, contemplation over consumption. This pattern appears throughout history with such consistency that we would be foolish to ignore its implications. From the philosophical schools of ancient Greece, where silence was a prerequisite for wisdom, to the Japanese concept of ma, the productive emptiness that gives form meaning, to the scientific breakthroughs that emerge not in laboratories, but during walks, showers, and moments of reverie, humanity has repeatedly discovered and then forgotten this essential truth, that silence is not the absence of something but the presence of everything essential. What does this mean for you? Today, in practical terms, it means that your relationship with silence may be the most important relationship you will ever cultivate. More than your professional connections, more than your technical skills, more than your material resources, your capacity to step back from the world's noise and access your own deeper wisdom will determine the trajectory of your life more powerfully than any external factor. Begin where you are. If the thought of extended silence seems overwhelming, start with 5 minutes. Place your phone in another room. Step outside if possible. Sit comfortably and simply notice your thoughts, without attempting to control them. Like watching clouds pass across the sky, observe the content of your mind without attachment. This simple practice, repeated daily, begins to create a different relationship with your own consciousness, one characterized by awareness rather than identification. As this awareness grows, you'll begin to notice something remarkable, that you are not your thoughts. They arise within your awareness like weather within the sky, but they are not you. This distinction, subtle at first but increasingly profound, creates a space between stimulus and response that Viktor Frankl identified as the foundation of human freedom. In this space lies choice, and in choice lies power, the power to create rather than merely react. From this foundation of mindful silence, begin to direct your thought deliberately toward what you wish to create, not with the desperate grasping of lack, but with the calm certainty of vision. See in your mind's eye the conditions you wish to manifest in your health, your relationships, your work, your contribution. Feel these conditions as already present, already real. This is not magical thinking, but the practical application of the mind's creative capacity, its ability to conceive before it achieves. Throughout history, every significant human achievement has followed this pattern. Silence, thought, vision, action. The order cannot be reversed. Those who begin with frantic action, skipping the essential preparatory stages, may create motion but rarely progress. They exhaust themselves pushing against conditions that could have been dissolved through prior thought. They solve problems that could have been avoided entirely through clarity of vision. They spend decades climbing ladders only to discover they were leaning against the wrong wall. The tragedy of modern existence is not that we face exceptional challenges. Every generation has faced challenges. The tragedy is that we face these challenges with fragmented attention, with minds so filled with noise that our inherent wisdom cannot emerge. We have gained the world of information but lost the art of thought. We know more facts but exhibit less understanding. We have more connections but experience less connection. And all of this can be traced to our broken relationship with silence. Imagine for a moment a different way of being. Imagine beginning each day not with the harsh intrusion of an alarm followed by immediate digital immersion, but with a period of sacred silence, a time to center yourself in what matters before the world tells you what should matter. Imagine approaching your work not from a stance of harried reaction, but of centered creation, responding not to the urgent, but to the important. Imagine relationships characterized not by habitual patterns, but by genuine presence. This is not an impossible ideal, but a practical shift available to anyone willing to challenge the cultural current of constant noise. And while the benefits of this shift include greater productivity, better decisions, and improved well-being, its true gift transcends these outcomes. For in reclaiming silence, you reclaim something more precious: your sovereignty, your ability to determine from within rather than be determined from without. In a world increasingly designed to hijack your attention, this sovereignty may be the last true freedom. The path forward is both simple and challenging. Create periods of deliberate silence each day, even if brief. Use these intervals not to escape reality, but to engage with it more deeply, to consider your true priorities, to envision your desired outcomes, to align your actions with your values. As this practice becomes habitual, extend these periods gradually. Notice how your relationship with time itself begins to shift, how you become less reactive, more deliberate, how solutions arise not from frantic effort, but from clear seeing. The world will not make this easy. Every force in modern society is aligned against silence. Every economic incentive, every technological design, every cultural current. Silence doesn't sell products, it doesn't generate clicks, it doesn't boost engagement metrics. It stands as a rebuke to a system built on constant consumption, on the commodification of attention. To choose silence is therefore not merely a personal preference, but a revolutionary act, a reclaiming of what may be our most valuable and endangered resource. As you cultivate this practice, you'll begin to notice something extraordinary, that the quality of everything improves. Your work gains depth and originality. Your relationships become more authentic. Your decisions align more closely with your true values. Not because you're trying harder at these things, but because they flow naturally from a mind that has relearned the art of deep thought. Like a lake that has been allowed to settle, the clarity that emerges reveals both what lies below and what is reflected from above. This clarity becomes especially valuable in times of challenge and uncertainty. While others react from fear or follow the herd, you'll find yourself able to see opportunities where others see only threats, solutions where others see only problems. Not because you're inherently more capable, but because you've created the conditions for your inherent wisdom to emerge. In silence, perspective is restored. The urgent loosens its grip and the important can finally be heard. There's a poignant irony in our modern condition. We have gained the ability to connect with anyone, anywhere, at any time. A power our ancestors could scarcely imagine, yet we have never been more disconnected from ourselves. We can access the world's information in seconds, but struggle to access our own deepest knowing. We mistake data for wisdom, activity for progress, noise for meaning. And in this confusion we wander, achieving much perhaps, but fulfilling little. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung observed that in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. But this hidden order can only be perceived in silence. Only when the surface mind grows still can the deeper patterns emerge. Only when we cease our desperate grasping for answers outside ourselves can we hear the guidance that has always been present within. This is not mysticism, but practical psychology. The recognition that the human mind operates on multiple levels, and that its deepest wisdom speaks in whispers, not shouts. What might your life become if you listened more closely to these whispers? If you created space each day for genuine thought rather than mere reaction? If you approached your existence not as a problem to be solved, but as a vision to be realized? These questions cannot be answered theoretically, but only through direct experience, through your own experiment with silence. Begin this experiment understanding that it runs counter to everything your conditioning has taught you. Expect resistance from your own habitual patterns and from a world that profits from your distraction. But persist nonetheless, knowing that in this persistence lies the seed of transformation. Not transformation in some abstract, distant future, but beginning in this very moment, with your next conscious breath. The choice before you is stark but simple: to continue living at the mercy of external forces, pulled this way and that by every demand, every notification, every trending topic, or to establish an inner sanctuary of silence from which authentic action can emerge. One path leads to a life of reaction, the other to a life of creation. One is the path of least resistance, the other of greatest fulfillment. The difference is silence. In making this choice, remember that you stand in a long lineage of those who understood this truth. From Socrates to Seneca, from Buddha to Einstein, from the mystic to the entrepreneur, all who have contributed works of lasting value have done so from a foundation of inner silence. Not as an escape from engagement, but as its essential prerequisite. Not as a retreat from reality, but as its deepest embrace. The sanctuary of silence awaits you, not in some distant monastery or remote location, but here and now, in the space between your thoughts. In that space lies everything you seek: clarity, purpose, meaning, direction. Not as abstract concepts, but as lived experience. Not as distant goals, but as present realities, available the moment you become still enough to perceive them. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the journey to a life of authentic achievement begins with a single moment of genuine silence. Not the silence of suppression or avoidance, but the rich, fertile silence of presence, of being fully available to this moment, to your deepest knowing, to the quiet voice of wisdom that has been waiting patiently for you to listen. Listen, now. Listen beneath the noise of doubt, beneath the clamor of fear, beneath the endless monologue of the conditioned mind. Listen for that still, small voice that speaks with quiet certainty of who you truly are and what you are here to create. It has never abandoned you, though you may have abandoned it. It remains, now as always, your surest guide through the complexity of existence, your compass when all external references fail. In the end, success, true success, not its pale cultural imitation, is not about accumulation or achievement, as conventionally understood. It is about alignment, the progressive alignment of your outer life with your inner truth. And this alignment begins in silence, in those sacred moments when you dare to listen beyond the noise. In that listening lies not only the seed of achievement, but something far more precious: the recognition of your own essential nature, the direct experience of what cannot be lost or taken, the freedom that has been yours all along, waiting only for you to claim it through the simple revolutionary act of being still. The sanctuary of silence beckons, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you've completed your to-do list or reached your next goal, but now, in this moment. For if not now, when? If not here, where? The time for thinking about silence has passed. The time for experiencing it is at hand. In that experience lies everything you've been seeking in the noise: the peace, the clarity, the direction, the fulfillment, not as distant possibilities, but as immediate realities, awaiting only your courage to be still and know. In silence, success is born. Not success as the world defines it, but success as your deepest self recognizes it. The full expression of who you are and what you're here to contribute. This is the promise of silence, and it has never been more essential, more revolutionary, or more available than it is right now, in this moment, as you read these words. The sanctuary awaits. The door is open. The time is now. Will you enter?